welcome back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show right here in your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
And remember, our goal is always to guide you to personal and financial wellness.
Well, we're thankful for you joining us every Saturday now for almost 7 years on the Don and Gino. That's the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes I get called Gino, he gets called Don. I don't even look like a Gino. But
I got called Don yesterday, actually.
We thank you for joining us for the last 7 years, and we'd love you to join our website where we have literally over 1,800 YouTube videos with interviews with such great professionals like we have Lisa ODOM with Poole Shaffery. She's been on our show, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 times. And she's one of the best. And that's why you need to go to our hub, because if you pull up any topic, we're going to have an interview with one of the best professionals, whether it's college planning, estate planning, financial planning, insurance planning, real estate, you name it, it's there. And today we're very thankful to have Lisa ODOM back with Poole Shaffery, because she is our personal real estate / estate planner and has helped us educate us, inform us, and protect us. And that's why you're here today.
Well, thank you.
We're thinking of how to best protect you, our clients, with their real estate investments, because more and more of you are getting in real estate investments, and a lot of times you think, oh, no big deal, but it should be protected. Am I right?
In some circumstances, absolutely.
So we were talking about LLCs. I want to make sure I teed that up, because that's what we were talking about.
I don't know. We probably don't have time to talk about all of it, but the reality is there's also two different types of real estate investors, or more than that, but at least two different types. One is you're going to invest in real estate you're going to buy and hold, and the other one, there's people flipping properties right now.
Correct.
And so those are two different, very distinctly different businesses that need different types of protections. I mean, particularly people that are flipping. You've got contractors in there. I mean, you got 30 contractors in there. You got to be thinking about mechanics liens. You got to be thinking about all kinds of different
whatever,
things,
right?
You bring up an excellent point. And whether for a flipping company, whether an LLC is the appropriate, I probably tend to say not the appropriate entity, because it's a very active. I would probably use a corporation in that situation.
Right, because you buy assets, sell assets.
Yeah, well, because you're actively engaged. So because you're actively engaged, you're not going to avoid the self-employment tax. So if you're not going to avoid the self-employment tax, it's probably better to do an S corp, so that you get the pass-through benefits, but you don't pay self-employment. It's usually if you're making over $100,000.
Please consult your CPA.
Yes.
Yeah, but what's cool is you got an attorney and a CPA consulting you, not you looking it up on LegalZoom or something trying to figure it out. It's good to talk to a professional that ties all these things together. That's why we brag about America's Professional Resource Group, because, for example, we have Chris Ingram, our financial planner, that ties in stuff with Lisa, that ties in with our other attorneys, and ties in with
our mortgage practice.
Everything. So you need a group of professionals. And if you don't have it, go to aprgi.com, aprgi.com, America's Professional Resource Group, Inc. You'll find great people like Lisa. Sorry, I had to see that. But it's important. So, you're talking about how you mix and match between you and the CPA. What's the best thing for a client?
Absolutely, and we do that daily. We figure out what's the best thing. But for some people, a real estate investment holding company is really the best thing. The reason for that is it's a passive investment, which means that essentially it's a rental income comes in, they then pay the expenses and then give themselves a draw or the balance, or sometimes they keep it in the business, but regardless, they're not really actively engaged, unlike flipping, which is a very active, fast kind of business.
Yeah, I'm not too engaged with my rental.
Exactly. Most people aren't. They just,
you hope not to be, right?
Yes,
please don't call. Please don't call. That's going to cost me money if somebody calls.
Yeah, and many people actually have property managers who handle it too, so they really are not involved.
Best thing I ever did.
Right, and most people feel that way. So as long as your property manager doesn't, stop calling you and take all the money. I just had that happen with a client.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
So I should ask my property management company to have fidelity insurance.
Probably. Not
go.
a bad idea.
All right.
But so
Extra little nugget there today.
But there are some benefits of having your rental properties in an LLC. Probably the primary one is actually asset protection. Unfortunately, California, in particular, if your assets are held in California, you should know that California is literally the most litigious state in the entire.
By far, huh?
But it's the amount of people who want to get rich quick in this in this particular state, I think it must be higher per capita than anywhere else in the world. Either that or our laws are terrible and just allow people to get away with murder. So
and we have so many lawyers.
A little bit of everything. We're going to get into too many of the politics of this, but people complain about everything.
Correct, but asset protection is a huge component of it. So obviously, for many people, for most of your normal people who are just they go to normal W-2 jobs, they come home, but let's say they inherited a piece of property that has renters in it. That is a potential source of liability. If the renter gets hurt in your property, if the renter's guest gets hurt in the property, the renter hosts a party and someone gets drunk and then drives, these are all potential sources of liability to you, even though you're not in the property, you're not there on a daily basis.
Makes me want to puke.
I'm thinking about my property right now.
Now, one of the ways that we protect ourselves, obviously, in that situation is through insurance, and insurance is undoubtedly a fantastic, relatively inexpensive way to protect yourself. And I highly recommend that my clients who choose not to use an LLC, not only do they have insurance, but they also have an umbrella policy to really give them extra coverage because they need it. It's one way to help mitigate your losses. But another,
can I throw in one quick thing there is also take into consideration that when you move things into an LLC, you're going to have to change your insurance policies.
Yes.
And insurance policies for companies are not as cheap as personal insurance policies. So just know that when you make your change, it may not be as easy, or you may not be able to get the same coverage for the same amount of money.
Correct.
Just caveat.
And it's an excellent point. It also goes along with some other disadvantages of the LLC that we'll talk about in a minute. But the awesome part of that is that you can actually insulate your assets from each other. So you could put your rental properties in an LLC. So if someone gets hurt in the in the rental property, they're going to look to the assets and the insurance of the LLC only. And assuming that you've run everything correctly, they're not going to be looking at your personal assets because you've literally separated them. They're two separate entities.
And this is the caveat where we always say this is why you want to see a professional and not try to do this yourself, because if you leave one opening, they're gonna go right there and attach all your assets anyways.
Right. Yes. If you make a mistake, your mistake could be a fatal mistake. You may have all of your assets now exposed, and you purposely. What was the point of the cost of getting this LLC if you were going to end up not getting the benefits of it anyway?
Right. Yeah. There's also some mortgage implications that we should bring up when you deed something into an LLC. That does make things more difficult on the mortgage side because, again, it's not your personal residence. You're not personally securing it necessarily. So there's just some things to take into consideration. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but like, for example, just a quick example is if you wanted cash out and you said, oh, well, I'll just take it out of the LLC, I'll put it in my personal name and I'll get cash out, you got to wait 6 months. You got a 6 month waiting period.
Yep.
We know that.
All too well. Correct. That's one thing. That's one issue.
We learn for you.
That's right. I practice on myself.
Yes.
Right. So that is definitely one big issue. The other issue that you have to be concerned about is that technically, if you already have a mortgage, most of my clients already have the mortgages, and most of them are trying to pay them down so it's just a pure asset that's available to them. But if you technically, under your most promissory notes and deeds of trust that you might have executed in your personal capacity or individual capacity, they have something known as a due on sale clause. So when you transfer your assets to a trust, there is the Garn-St. Germain Act that actually prohibits the lender from saying that would invoke the due on sale clause. There's no similar protection for an LLC. So technically, by virtue of me transferring from Lisa Odom to Lisa Odom LLC, I have potentially triggered the due on sale clause, which means that my note could be accelerated. Now, the practical reality is knock on wood, I've never seen a lender, as long as the loan is paid.
Right.
I've never seen it
you
happen,
are open
but
to
it's a
caveat
risk.
if it is late, all of a sudden they're like, hey, we see risk.
Correct,
Right.
correct. And then they could potentially accelerate you, and now all of a sudden you're in a situation where you cannot get alternate financing, and they're going to foreclose if they don't get a full payment. So you have to, there's a risk there. Now, is it a calculated risk? Absolutely. But this is exactly why you have a professional guide you through this, so that you kind of know what to expect. Because even if you know that you're going to have, if you realize you have financial troubles, we could always pull it out of the LLC so that you don't have to worry about
be
the
done
lender.
Put it back in your personal name before you default.
Exactly. I'm not sure why you'd want to do, but there's scenarios.
What the key thing is, you know, by talking to you, and hopefully you're getting a lot of good, right now it's probably scaring you going, shoot, that's more than I need to know, but what you should do is if you are investing in property, you should talk to a professional. You should talk to a professional insurance person like we use, Carlos Villalobos Insurance. He's an expert, 30 years experience, and he's located out of here, or Lisa Odom with Poole Shaffery. She'll give you guidance as to pros and cons as to how you should, but you do need to protect your family one way or another. You know, she protects our family with our trust, she protects with our LLCs and our partnerships and so many things. You need to talk to a professional. How can they get hold of you, Lisa?
They can call me at 661-290-2991 or email me at lodom, L-O-D-O-M, at pooleshaffery.com.
Oh, I do both regularly.
Yes, you do.
All right. Well, thank you for always giving us good insight. I know we always run out of time because you always have great information, but each segment is great. So if you pull up Lisa Odom, you'll probably pull up, I don't know, probably 40 videos with some great advice, all great advice. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me,
and
guys.
thanks for protecting us and our families.
My pleasure.
Very
You guys
cool.
are easy to work with.
All right, stick around. Second half of the show is part of our APRG group and one of our good friends, one of our fellow Afterburnians. I call him.
Is that a word?
I just made it up. Afterburn Fitness we all go to. Chris Ingram, who actually got us going there. He's our financial planner and guru, and a great time to talk to him while we're at the peak of the stock market. When we come right back, don't go away.